Hello, and welcome to EdGooby, where I make arts and crafts of animals that are evolutionarily distinct, geographically unusual, and/or behaviorally interesting. To start off this beautiful month of April, I will be talking about the state rodent of Texas, the jackalope. Now, it is a popular misconception I see that this is a misclassification stemming from ignorance on the part of the Texas state legislature, and I will talk about that more in a bit when I tell you about the fascinating evolutionary history of this strange and magnificent animal. For some reason, you don't see these animals much outside of the American Southwest, I assume because they don't really do well in zoos. First time I ever saw one in Texas was roadkill on the road. Second time, it was also roadkill, but I picked it up and had it taxidermied, as you can see here. There have been a couple times that I've thought I've seen a living jackalope, however they are so dang fast that I have never been sure. Now some of my neighbors did tell me that if I went snipe hunting with them, they know a place where you can watch jackalopes hanging out and eating, but as cool as that sounds, hunting just strikes me as boring, plus I don't like getting up when it's dark out. Also, I have rather severe ADHD, and I'm worried that if I wear camo, I might end up losing track of myself, you know? I will be making my model out of air dry clay and painting it with acrylic paint. I've explained how I do this in other videos, so today I'm just going to be focusing on the jackalope, which is truly one of the most fascinating and underappreciated animals in North America. While it is not as obscure as many of the animals I'm going to be talking about on this channel, it is widely misunderstood, and so I'm hoping that this video will clear up some popular misconceptions. So anyways, let's talk about the jackalope as the state rodent of Texas. I will admit that the Texas state legislature sometimes, rarely but sometimes, does things that might be just a little bit questionable when it comes to the science behind their reasoning. But I think that accusation is unfair in the case of the jackalope. People tend to assume that the jackalope is a jackrabbit and a jackrabbit is a kind of bunny rabbit, and they know that rabbits are not rodents but rather lagomorphs, so they tend to assume that the jackalope must be a lagomorph as well. The problem is that, first of all, jackrabbits are not rabbits but hares. The second problem is that jackalopes are not jackrabbits. In fact, they are not any sort of lagomorph at all, but rather a separate ancient lineage that is the sister taxon to both rodents and lagomorphs. This does technically mean that they aren't rodents either, but the state legislature of Texas considers all rodents, lagomorphs, and the jackalopes to be a single created kind, which rapidly diversified into all the forms you see today within the last 6,000 years after Noah's flood. This makes the classification of the jackalope not a scientific error or a matter of ignorance on the part of the Texas state legislature, but it is in fact completely valid and accurate according to the alternative scientific field of baraminology, or the study of biblically created kinds. So if it's not a rabbit or a rodent, and it's certainly not an antelope, nor a pronghorn I should mention, which is commonly called an antelope in the United States, but it's actually a distant relative of the giraffe, what is it? Well, like I said, it's the only surviving member of the sister group to the group containing both rodents and lagomorphs, the Antilololagae. Technically speaking, there are actually two species of jackalope: the common jackalope, Antilololagus jackalopus, found from Saskatchewan to Sinaloa and east to parts of the upper peninsula of Michigan and the Florida Panhandle, and the Texas jackalope, Antilololagus kinkifriedmanii, formerly endemic to the Edwards Plateau of central Texas, also known as Texas Hill Country. Like many things in Texas, the Texas jackalope was substantially bigger, being about half again the size of the common jackalope, although also like many things in Texas, it wasn't actually bigger where it actually counts, with the common jackalope having on average bigger, let's say, antlers for now. I say was because ironically the Texas jackalope is now extinct in Texas, and any jackalope you spot here today is a common jackalope. While the reason for the decline of our own endemic species is debated, by the start of 2020 the population was reduced to a few remnant populations around New Braunfels, with the largest population being found in the Schlitterbahn Water Park. Then along came the big winter freeze of early 2021, which nearly drove the Texas power grid to total collapse and drove the remaining populations of the Texas jackalope in Texas to extinction. Fortunately, the species was preserved due to decisive and heroic action by our junior senator, noted conservationist Theodore Rachel Cruz, who had the foresight to rush a small population of the critically endangered species to Cancun during the winter freeze. Though he was heavily criticized for this at the time, by all accounts, the jackalopes he introduced there are now doing extremely well. This is quite possibly because the large population of wild tourists in Cancun reminds the jackalope of its preferred natural habitat of Buc-ee's parking lots. In fact, there is now a larger population of jackalope in Cancun than there was in all of Texas before the storm. I guess you could say that in Mexico, jackalopes breed like rabbits, although I again want to emphasize that the jackalope is not a rabbit. And while the population has gotten bigger, the animal itself has in fact gotten noticeably smaller, maybe to shed heat in the tropical climate, or maybe because it's no longer eating a standard American diet. Speaking of breeding, the jackalope exhibits a very unusual reproductive system for a mammal. The jackalope is polyandrous, which is to say that one female mates with many males, and it is the males who rear the fawns. This is an extremely rare breeding system in mammals, although it is also found in marmoset monkeys, a few species of marsupial, and the population of Portland, Oregon. I will note, however, that as is usually the case when it comes to polyandrous systems, it is not a harem like you see with many polygynous animals, such as horses or elephant seals. It's not a situation where all the males live together with the female in a sort of jackalope polycule. Rather, it's more akin to the ostrich or jacana, where each male has his own small territory within the larger territory of a single female. Stranger still is the sex determination of the jackalope, because like the Okinawa spiny rat, the jackalope has lost its Y chromosome. The jackalope, therefore, as far as I know uniquely among mammals, exhibits protandry, that is to say all the fawns and young animals are males, and when the dominant female in an area dies, several males develop female reproductive systems and vie for the new position. It is for this reason that the bill establishing the jackalope as the state rodent of Texas also included a rider prohibiting all jackalopes from entering all bathrooms and locker rooms in Texas. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's no evidence that a jackalope has ever used a bathroom or locker room in Texas, nor that they are able to read, but I guess the Texas legislature just felt that you can never be too careful when it comes to such vitally important issues as this one. Now, what the legislature did not specify is which species of jackalope is the state rodent, as both have at least historically been found in Texas. Because it is more endangered, and also endemic to Texas hill country, I am making the Texas jackalope. However, I want to note that any jackalope you see in Texas today, including this roadkill I had stuffed, will be a common jackalope, which can be identified by the 3 prongs of its ossicones rather than the 2 prongs of the Texas jackalope, as well as the ossicones being larger than those of its larger but rarer relative. I would like to emphasize that in a fascinating case of convergent evolution, these are in fact ossicones and not horns or antlers. While antlers are grown and shed every year, and horns are grown as bone from the start, ossicones are, as the name suggests, ossified from non-bone structures. Now, there is some controversy over whether the jackalope has true ossicones, and you will see that Wikipedia takes sides in the debate by claiming that they are only found in giraffes and its relatives, ignoring the jackalope entirely. The reason for this controversy, on which Wikipedia has taken a stance through omission, is that while in giraffes and the okapi, as well as their extinct relatives, the ossicones were formed from cartilage, while in the jackalope they are formed from the ossification of keratin, such as what you have in your fingernails and hair. Imagine a porcupine quill turned to bone, and that is essentially what the antlers of a jackalope are. Some scientists have therefore proposed the alternative term of ossiquills, which to me sounds like a sleeping aid for insomniac Australians, which would be ridiculous because everyone knows that Australians don't sleep. What the ossicones of the jackalope are most emphatically not is a scar tissue created by a form of the papillomavirus, as many conspiracy theorists have argued. As I have said, jackalopes are quite fast, and indeed they are probably the fastest mammal in North America. However, this honor is instead bestowed on the pronghorn, because no scientist has ever been able to keep track of a jackalope long enough to time it when moving at top speed. There is some indication that the jackalope, unlike its rodent and lagomorph relatives, might actually be omnivorous, with reports of the animals scavenging roadkill, killing small animals, and even attacking isolated travelers. For some reason, there have also been a surprisingly large number of jackalope attacks at Renaissance fairs, with the only common denominator being that the target was dressed as a knight. Some researchers have speculated that it might be an attempt to get at the iron in the costumes or the blood of the people wearing it, due to a natural deficiency in the diet of the jackalope. Fossil evidence also suggests that there was formerly a fully carnivorous relative of the jackalope found in North America during the Pleistocene, however it went extinct at the end of the last ice age. There is also fairly recent fossil evidence of another jackalope relative in China, and so it is possible that we might one day rediscover another member of the family in the same way as we have rediscovered so many so-called living fossils, among the apothecaries and wet markets of its native range. Anyways, there you have it, a 2-pronged Texas jackalope. I'm Magpie, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one whenever that is. Which might not be till the first day of next April.